you want to dominate in Warzone, you're going to need the right settings. Today, I'm going to share how to get better visibility, better aim, and better movement. Let's talk about it. This video isn't just going to be about me showing you my settings, you copying them, and then trying to play on your own. I want to show you real-time examples of how these settings work and why I recommend them to you. My goal is for you to have an understanding so that maybe in the future, you don't have to go look up these videos. Maybe when Black Ops 7 drops, you can just know what to set up for that game. With that said, we are in this firing range, and I'm going to be showing you these examples. So going into settings, we're going to be taking a look at controller settings first. You can see there's 4 tabs. We've got controller, aiming, movement, combat. We also, if you scroll down, have dead zone inputs, which by the way are super important, and I will be giving you the best settings for those. But let's go ahead and start with our input device. As you can see, I have my own Pro controller. Right here, you can see it's got paddles on the back. It's got cool little triggers. In fact, I'll show you right here. This is the controller. This is, I have quite a few of them. I've got triggers that do this, right? It goes all the way down, and then I click a button, and now it's a mouse click, right? So this is a Pro controller that I work with aim controllers to create. It is incredible, and I use it all the time. Why do you mention that, Expel? We get it, you have a controller. The reason I mention that is because it is the reason I use a default button layout. So going into this, the button layouts are as follows. You've got default, you've got tactical, lefty, blah, 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 blah. The one that I would recommend to people if you don't have some kind of Pro controller is going to be bumper jumper tactical. I'm not going to recommend this in general, but I will say, if you don't want to get a Pro controller, this is your best bet. Or you can learn to play claw, which, by the way, looks like this. And if your hands don't do that, mine don't either. Don't feel bad. It's not comfy for most people, so I can't recommend it. Now, I know everybody has their own preferences. Mine are as follows. So with bumper jumper tactical, basically the reason I would recommend that over anything else if you don't have a Pro controller is because it keeps your right thumb on your analog stick to aim all the time. Your jump is L1, so you can jump and turn. Your slide is L3, which is your analog stick. So putting this on, I'll show you, I'm not going to move my thumb to over here. We're going to slide, and then I'm going to jump, and you can see that's how it works. And the reason that's so important is that you're going to be able to stay on target at all times. However, the problem is with tactical specifically is that when you press in on that right analog stick, you can see it once again right here. When you press in, there's going to be a little bit of wiggle in it. And that wiggle, what it's going to do is it's going to make you a little less accurate. Now, of course, we do have aim assist. We have rotational aim assist, which we're going to go a little bit deeper into in a minute. But the problem is, if you are any bit less accurate, you are going to be missing shots. Missing shots means you're likely to lose. So the reason I recommend at all times one of these puppies that have back paddles is because you can map these back paddles. Mine specifically is jump, slide, and ping for both of these top two. I can map those back paddles to make it where I don't have to change my button layout. I can always just use that for aiming. Keeps me on target all the time. And then I can use it for melee whenever I'm close because I'm not going to be trying to aim at the enemy. I'm just whacking the button to melee. So that's why I use what I use. Now, of course, again, you can use claw setup to where you're moving your fingies and stuff like that, but I'm not going to do it. Hey there, Editor Expel here. Just wanted to remind you to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the video. All right, let's get back to it. By the way, moving into the next thing, we have our sensitivity. Let me change this back to default here. Oh my God, there's actually so many options, by the way, but you can also change your button layout to be completely custom if you want to in the settings. So we have our sensitivity. Now, a lot of people like to set their sensitivity a little bit higher. You're going to see people with like a 4 sensitivity, which is basically 20/20. I don't do that. One, you're going to see that my horizontal is higher than my vertical. When you're playing Warzone, you are not often going up and down. You are mostly staying left to right. So you want that left to right to be you want the left to right to be a little bit more snappy, and the up to down can be a little bit more slow because all they're doing is jumping. And the jumps are pretty slow. It's really not that difficult to track somebody, but I do make it a little bit slower for that vertical because I want to be able to just slowly follow that. To go a little bit further in detail as to why I like my sensitivity a little bit lower, it all comes down to how aim assist works. If you are closer to the target, you are going to be on target more often. That's how it works, right? So say I'm aiming at this, right? As you can see, hand off, my guy kind of wiggles a little bit. I'll zoom in. My guy kind of stares closer to him and turns as I go left to right. My right hand completely off the controller. You can see it's doing the exact same thing. So this is technically called rotational aim assist, but this is called slow down aim assist. I'm standing still. The target is standing still and I am moving my right analog stick. There's two different kinds of aim assist, slow down and rotational. Rotational is when you or the enemy is moving and one of your analog sticks is activated. That means you can stand completely still. If your enemy is moving and you move your right analog stick, it will give you rotational aim assist. It's not great, but that is actually what Cronus's use to get more aim assist, which is why it's so incredibly dumb, is that all you have to do is move or move your analog stick just a little bit. Stop standing still. That's all it comes down to. Don't buy a Cronus. Do that. Just start moving. Just move a little bit, right? So these are your two kinds of aim assist. And the big thing is when you're moving slower, that slowdown is more impactful. But if you're moving fast, like let's go into our settings, let's change this as high as it'll go. You think I'm gonna be able to catch that super easy? Like that slowdown is actually laughable. What am I gonna do with that? So that's why it's like, having a high sensitivity is kind of goofy because you have to be so accurate. And don't get me wrong, you kind of can, but you're still going to be just jumping all over the target. So what I would recommend to you is go into your sensitivity, find whichever sensitivity you're comfortable with, and I want you to try and snap from target to target. So like right here and then right here. And if you're overshooting, slow it down a little bit. Take your sensitivity from a 0.18 or not a 0.18, a 1.8 to like a 1.7. And you know, if you're undershooting, raise it up a little bit. You're going and you're trying to get on target. You're going from right here and then you're right there. You want to raise it up a little bit. You kind of want to match how your thumb has that muscle memory. So for me, it's like this, and then it's like that, and then it's like that. And I do overshoot just a hair, but I also rely on aim assist. So that's why I keep my sensitivity at the exact sensitivity that I have it. And like I said, the vertical comes down to there's not a lot of verticality in the game. So I don't feel like I need to be super fast. I can just track pretty slow. With that said, we're not going to change any of these settings. I do recommend you have controller vibration off. If you get the Expel Pro Plus, it comes with its vibration motors in it. I would say opt out of them if you could, but if you play any other games, you're probably going to want vibration. But with Call of Duty, the reason I say turn off vibration is because say we turn this on, my controller's vibrating and it can, dude, I've not felt controller vibration in years, but all that shake in your controller here, all that shake is often going to lead to, yeah, okay, so I'm using a larger weapon right here and it's giving me a ton more vibration, which means that I'm shaky on my shots. So what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll cut off vibration because then I don't have to think about it. I'm just focusing on hitting the target and I don't have to try and fight the vibration in my controller. Next up, same thing kind of goes for trigger effect. If I turn this on, oh my God. So basically what ends up happening is like right here, it'll go like halfway down. I don't know if this makes any sense, but like right here, you can see that is haptics. It stops right there and I have to pull it hard to get that to stop doing that. So what I say is go in and cut that off as well because you want to have the ability to go all the way down. Plus, if you're using the Expel Pro Plus and you want to cut on mouse clicks, the haptics aren't going to matter anyway. So it doesn't make sense. The next thing, of course, is going to be dead zones. Now, this is going to be very important. These will dictate how your game works overall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these to basically, you know what? Can I reset this? Oh, wait, no, I can't do that. All right. So naturally your left stick minimum and your right stick minimum, for some reason, they start them at like 15 across the board. So if you have never messed with your settings, this is likely what it looks like. Okay. And this is terrible. This is god awful. The first thing you want to do, go into left trigger and right trigger, set it to 0. Go to right stick minimum and left stick minimum and set those both to 0. All right, next we're going to test our stick drift. Now, the controller that I have actually has TMR sticks, which are basically about as accurate as you can get. They have an error rate of around 3%, 3 to 5%, but mostly it's on the low side of that. A regular controller, we're talking about one of these things. they have an error rate of like 12 to 15%, which means you are going to miss 12 to 15% of your shots, not because you suck, but because the controller has a massive error rate. Regular analog sticks, mechanical analog sticks are not great, which is wild to say out loud. But the analog sticks on these are TMR, which means it's not mechanical. It doesn't use like rubber bands and stuff that can get stretched out. So what I have set up here is, as you can see, I do get a little bit of stick drift. I know this is goofy to, oh, that doesn't work. I know this is goofy to say, but a lot of stick drift for these controllers just comes down to that margin of error. So with TMRs, you can see I can snap to the edge and I get about a 1 stick drift, right? But when I hop into the game, if I actually look, there's no proper movement aside from the weapon itself swaying. You're not gonna see the sticks actually going anywhere. So it's not really noticeable. Plus, the cool thing that you can do, oddly enough, is that you can actually hop on to this website right here, which is gonna be DualShock Calibration GUI. It is DualShock-tools.github.io, and you can connect your controller. So I'll click my DualSense right here, and you can go through and you can calibrate your stick center. So if for some reason you get a controller and you have issues with stick drift, you can always reset that stick drift. Now this only really works for, God, this is so bright. This only really works for controllers that aren't using mechanical analog sticks like these. And the reason why is because these have rubber bands, right? These have little things that literally just get loose. It's just how it works. So if you go in and you try and calibrate that stick center, you're still gonna have stick drift another way. But with these, it's based on like quantum positioning. It's super complicated. I don't know how to explain TMRs to you, but it's super complicated. But you can go in and you can recalibrate it and make sure everything's good, and then you just save the changes and it fixes itself, which is super freaking cool. And that's why I love these controllers so freaking much. Hold on, there it is. That's why I love them so much, is because if you do get these with stick drift, you can just reset it and then you're back to like square one, where it's like that little margin of error. So I, at all times, will keep my left stick max, which is me going to full sprint, at 70. That way, as soon as physically possible, I'm moving as fast as possible. My left stick minimum, usually I'll put it to like a 1 or a 2, just so that, Lord forbid, the margin of error does get a little bit wonky. I'm not gonna accidentally move. And plus, whenever I move my analog stick, I'm going 0 to 100 every single time anyway, whenever I wanna move. There's no like little baby movements for me because I'm going full in on somebody. And then your right stick minimum. Now, again, this defaults to 15. That means for the center of your stick, for 15% of your stick, you are going to be not moving. So I don't know if I can actually show you, but I have to go pretty far before I make those little micro adjustments. So I'm trying to stare directly at a target, but my micro adjustments are pretty much impossible. So the best thing you can do is set this, even if you have stick drift, to 0. Even if your stuff is moving, again, you've got aim assist, right? So that aim assist, if you're moving left to right, you're actually going to get that rotational if somebody else is moving, because it just automatically gets it going for you because your analog stick is moving a little bit. It's kind of interesting, but a lot of people get freaked out with stick drift. Worry about stick drift on your left stick. Don't worry about it on the right. However, I will note that stick drift on your right stick can cause you to be a little bit more inaccurate. And an example of this truly would be me popping, oh, I've got the mouse click on, me hopping in and doing this, and then I'll switch controllers here over to this one, and let me show you how bad the stick drift is on this. And mind you, I used this controller for a week, 1 week, one singular week, like 2 years ago. Check how bad this stick drift is. So we're gonna go here, test it, whack it down. Oh, hold on, left stick minimum. It's like 3%, and then if I push it to the edge here, it can get up to like 7% in some places. The stick drift on the regular stick that I used for a single week, and I've used this for like 2 months now, and it's got 1%, if not less. Like, it can get up to 7%. So that margin of error can actually make it where you see how I'm like wobbly all over the place? That's kind of where like stick drift comes into play, because you're gonna be a lot less accurate. So I know it's a lot to take in, but your controller really does matter. And that's why whenever I mention, hey, go grab the Expel Pro Plus, I'm not saying it just because I'm like, let me make a quick buck. It's like, this controller genuinely changed the way that I play. I realize it feels like a big ad, but dude, when I recommend a product, it's not because I just want to make a quick buck. Of course, I get a kickback when you buy a controller, but also it changed my game. I did not, the day I got it, I was like, holy shit, like it was crazy. But anyway, what I would recommend, set your left stick minimum to whatever your stick drift seems to be. So for me, I whack it, go to the edge, and it comes back. It's going to be at like -1, right? So you're getting about a 1 on that. So I would say for me, I would go to 1, test it again. It's going right back to center every time, back to 0. So I can leave mine at 1, left stick max to 70, right stick minimum to 0, right stick max to 100. That way, by the way, and the reason I say set it to 100 is because you want to make sure that you have your full ability to hit every single millimeter of your stick there. So if you want to go just a little bit to the right, you can go a little bit to the right. If you want to go all the way up, you go all the way up. There's not a moment where it maxes out for you, because if I'm to like set this a lot lower, right? Let's say I set that to 50 and I go in, I move so fast. You can see it goes there, and then it's like going slow, and halfway it's already going its max speed. You know what I mean? So that's why it's so important to get these dead zones right, because they didn't exist like 5 years ago. And now that they do, it's super important to get that right, especially with how controllers have advanced. I know that was a lot. I apologize. That was like 10 minutes just for dead zones, but it is super, super important. A lot of this we're going to get through a lot faster. So moving into the next thing, we have aiming. Obviously, make sure target aim assist is on, ADS aim assist is on. You don't need to mess with the motion sensitivity stuff. Your sensitivity multiplier, make sure everything is set to default. Do not mess with your ADS sensitivity multiplier. We'll get there in a second. Go into instead your aiming advanced settings. You don't need look inversion, for the love of God. Your ADS sensitivity transition timing, making sure that you get to that ADS sensitivity faster. I set that to instant. Third person assist. Your aim response curve type. You've got a couple of options here. Standard is for people that don't know what their sensitivity should be, right? I would recommend this to beginners. Once you are kind of tuning into your sensitivity, you're starting to get a little bit better with it, I would recommend switching to dynamic. Linear is if you're a psychopath and you're better than everybody else on the freaking planet. That is literally what it comes down to. Do not use linear under any circumstances unless you are a professional player. That is my personal opinion. Next up, we have the custom sensitivity per zoom. This is where things get a little interesting, right? So we've got our low zoom, our 2 to 3 times, our 4 to 5 times, 6 to 7 times, 8 to 9 times, and our high zoom. The way that I like to think about this is that when I am in close range, I'm using a sight or no sight, right? I'm using a low zoom sight or no sight. So I like to move just a little bit slower, because when I'm doing this, I'm moving at the speed that I need to for if somebody's turning around me. But when I ADS, I want it to be a little bit different, right? So I want to slow down a little bit so I can stay on that target. Then as I go up, say I get a 2 times or a 3 times, I'm going to slowly raise that number. And the reason why is because if you're trying to track an enemy that's at a distance, say they're flying or they're moving very quickly in a vehicle, if you have that sensitivity still low, like it would be for that closer range, you're literally not going to be able to keep up with that vehicle. So what I do with my sensitivity, and I actually recommend this exact setup for everyone, is I'll go in and I'll set my ADS sensitivity multiplier for low zoom to a 0.85, and then 2 to 3 times, 0.85, multiplier for 4 to 5 times. We are zooming in pretty heavy here. That's almost sniper territory. You're going to want to raise it to a 1.10, 1.10, 8 to 9 times is a 1.20. High zoom, it kind of depends on the scope. If you have one that is like going really fast for absolutely no reason, it's probably because it's kind of messed up. I had a scope like that the other day, didn't love it. So I changed it to a 1.10, but I would again keep that at a 1.20. So that's our aiming settings. Moving into movement, we have some actual super important settings. We have intelligent movement settings, and specifically sprint assist is super important. You have to set this up as well as a couple other settings so that you can have maximum movement. Off rip, we have tactical sprint assist, right? That's what I'm going to set it to. If you have this off, you are going to slowly move into sprint assist. But the big thing is if you're trying to dodge, what is it called? Stick drift. You want to make sure you're not pushing in that right analog stick as often as possible. Because if you have a mechanical analog stick, the more you press in on that, the more strain you're putting on those sticks. So what I like to do is I recommend, there's like a hair somewhere around here. What I like to do is I recommend tactical sprint assist, because as you can see, it says forward movement input will activate tactical sprint after the sprint assist delay time. And then you set your sprint assist delay to 0. Sprint assist sideways is going to help you with your omni movement that everybody struggles with, and the same thing for backwards. So it's just going to make it to where when I'm going left, I go into tactical sprint as fast as physically possible, right? Left and right as fast as possible, forward to back. I'm not even pressing a button. That's kind of what it comes down to, is I don't even have to press a button for this, which I love, honestly. But there's another setting which is also important. So again, you want to set that to 0 for the delay. That way you're getting into that tactical sprint so that you can get out of these situations super, super fast. The next thing is I have hybrid, and hybrid is actually the best option. However, if you're struggling and you don't want to use diving, which you definitely should use diving, you should do slide only. When you do tap to slide or tap to dive, there is a small delay. Now, yes, you can minimize that delay by changing it to short in the slide dive activation delay, but you need to do slide only if you're struggling, because it will instantly activate the slide, meaning that you're not having that delay, which feels super clunky, super floaty, is actually horrendous to use. So stick with an only option or the hybrid. Now, hybrid allows you to kind of tap that slide, or you press in, and I'll show you right here. You press in on this one, you're pressing in on your run stick, and then you're pressing the circle button. So for me, again, that's the bottom thing right here, but I'll show you running, and then we're pressing circle. And if you can memorize that, and it's way easier with a pro controller, then you'll be able to dominate against people. What I like to do is I'll kind of dive off of buildings and stuff like that and catch people way off guard whenever they're trying to hide in a corner, and they're like, whoa, that guy came out of nowhere, and I'm on the ground instead of standing in front of them. It's massively helpful. Next up, we have our automatic airborne mantle. Set that to off. Sprint restore, make sure that's on. Slide maintain sprint, also make sure that's on. Parachute automatic behavior, turn it off. Once we've made it past baby steps, turn it off. Accept that you're going to splat the ground until you figure it out, though. Okay, you got to have it off so that you can get as close to the ground as physically possible. Mantle cancels reload, make sure that's turned off. We're going to go into movement advanced. So sprint, tactical sprint behavior, make sure that's still set to toggle. Auto move forward, turn that off. Auto door peek. If you go to look at a door and it automatically opens, your enemy will hear the door. You want to always manually open your doors. So do not have that set to on. Grounded mantle. This right here is what will make you get out of fights way better. However, it will also make you accidentally mantle over stuff when you're on top of a building, fall off the building, and die. I find that I need it pretty often to jump through windows. So if you're struggling to get through windows, this will make you go through those windows every single time. You're not going to run into a window and just stop. I used to do that all the time, but now I don't, because grounded mantle fixes that. It's super important for being very quick in gunfights. It also gets you over certain ledges a little bit faster. But moving forward, we also have tactical sprint activation, which is the other thing that is going to help with your omni movement. This is the only other thing that you need for a perfect omni movement. Make sure, a lot of people get this wrong, it is not on single tap sprint or double tap. Single tap sprint will put you to a run. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me, but you want it to single tap run, which from moving forward, if you have to press that button, say you're sliding up a staircase and you're turning the staircase, you're going to have to tap that button again. If you hit a slide and you wrap around the staircase, I don't know if I can explain this, but like if I slide and then I turn, I will crouch, right? That is the problem that I'm talking about. But if I slide and I turn and then I press the button, I'm right back into that tactical sprint. So that's why it's so important to have this set to single tap run, because from 0, it'll get you into that tactical sprint so that you're moving as fast as physically possible again. Next, plunging underwater, set that to free. Sprinting door bash, set it to on. Moving into vehicles. Let's check out the vehicle control mode. Make sure it's set to driver control. The score streak vehicle control mode, aim-based control, vehicle camera recenter. Make sure that is set to off. If you are trying to stay centered on an enemy so that you can jump out and shoot them very quickly, if it goes to reset, you will be looking away from your enemy. I had this on for so long and I couldn't figure out why I kept doing it. That was the problem. So make sure that's set up. And camera initial position, same exact thing. When you hop into a vehicle, you want to be able to look at the enemy that you're already looking at. So you hop into a vehicle so that you can take a seat swap. You're going to want to look at them, hop into the vehicle, you're looking that same direction, and then you can hop back out and still be looking that direction. That's why it's so freaking cool. Lean out activation, completely up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. And then we have our combat. Now, most of this should stay pretty much the same, but I like to go into a couple of these and change it. Off rip, dedicated melee weapon. This should be set to hold melee. Do not set it to weapon cycle. If you're on controller, you cannot memorize the exact control or the exact, I guess, sequence of your weapons. So you don't know what weapon slot 1 is and weapon slot 2, which means that sometimes you'll be on your SMG. And when you go to try and switch to your melee to get out of a gunfight or move quickly, you're going to switch back to a weapon that you didn't mean to switch to. So I always like to have a dedicated bind, which is hold melee. Next, I do prioritize body shield. Armor plate behavior, make sure that's set to apply all, or it's going to pop in one and then you're done, and then pop in another and then you're done. So don't do that. C4 activation, so that you can explode them quickly, make sure it's set to 1 by 1. Equipment behavior, set it to hold. Manual fire, set it to press. Combat advance, let's go ahead and take a quick look at this. We've got weapon mount exit. Do not set that to instant, because if you do, if you have any stick drift, you will go in and out of the weapon mount. Set it to short delay. Oh, where are we going? Interact reload behavior. This one is super, super important. It makes a massive difference. So looking at prioritize interact or prioritize reload, you may be thinking, all right, well, if he's doing prioritize interact, then that means he's picking up a lot of stuff. Yes. Yes, we are playing Battle Royale. You are going to be interacting more than you are reloading, because there's a lot less there's a lot less shooting at people. I know this sounds crazy, than there is picking up a bunch of stuff. So you want to be able to tap the button to pick up things. What you need to do is always hold to reload. When I say that, I know you're thinking, Expel, there's literally something that says tap to interact and hold to reload. Right, but it's going to slow you down. I know it sounds goofy. You still want to hold to reload in every scenario and tap to interact in every scenario, because you don't want a chance that you're accidentally picking something up when you need to reload. Memorize to hold to reload, but have the option for it to instantly start. So if not, basically how this works is if you're in a situation where there's nothing around you and you're not going to accidentally pick something up, it'll instantly start that reload. But if you have it set to tap to interact, you still have to get that full press, that extra 50 milliseconds or whatever it is on that delay for the reload. So it makes you quicker across the board, kind of like how hybrid does, right? That's basically what I'm trying to say. Next up, we have the sprint cancels reload. Again, make sure that's off. Akimbo behavior, set that to independent. Depleted ammo weapon switch, set that to on. And then we have our overlay behaviors. I set this to directional buttons, moderate, and default. Those are just what I find works best. Now we can finally move on to the graphics settings, which are actually super, super great. So I use the PG27 UCDM monitor. That is an OLED from Asus. It is a 27-inch. They actually have a 32-inch, which is cheaper, and it's the same thing. So if you like a bigger monitor, do that. But if you're interested in an OLED, I love this thing. It is outrageously expensive, but I also have a whole list of gear, including my headphones, which we'll get to in a little bit with the audio settings. And by the way, I have some great audio settings for you. I have a whole list of gear over on expel.gg, or you can go to expel.gg/gear just to get to those pages, which includes where my controller is. It is a 240 hertz 4K display. It is incredible. Obviously, I have a 4090 and a 9800X3D to power this thing. 1440p in most cases is going to be perfect for most people, so I don't recommend you spend $1,000 on a monitor unless you really want to rock some 4K. With that said, that's my setup. You don't have to have the same thing, but I will say if you're on PC, you're going to have a lot of settings here. If you are on Xbox or PlayStation, you may not have all these settings. Follow through with what I say here. It will make a difference in your gameplay. If you skip the graphics settings, you are a idiot. I'm not kidding. I am not joking. You will not have everything, but what you do have should match what I have. Okay, work with me on this. So moving down, display gamma. This is kind of up to you. If you are on a TV, oftentimes 2.4 is going to be better. If you are on a monitor, oftentimes 2.2 is going to be better. Personally, I just like the look of this and the way that the colors look with the 2.4. So that's what I use on my monitor. It is such a minuscule difference that unless you have something like an OLED, you're probably not going to notice. With that said, I also keep my brightness set to 50 because my monitor, like I said, is an OLED. The cool thing about this is that it actually has an FPS mode, which will dynamically raise the shadows. I don't even use it, but I used to use it whenever Urzikstan looked like crap. And boy, oh boy, it saved my ass, dude. With that said, I keep it on 50 at all times, which is the base. Next up, depending on your CPU, you may want to run on or on plus boost. It's entirely up to you, to be quite honest. It just all depends on your CPU. I would recommend trying these yourself. Like hop into a game, turn it on, hop into a game, turn it on plus boost. See which one works better for you. See which one keeps your system running better and gets higher performance. Next up, eco mode preset. Turn this to custom. For the love of God, don't use either of these. Next up, VSync. Turn that off. You don't need it. VSync menus. Turn that off. You don't need it. Now, custom frame rate. I used to say, put this to 5 above where your monitor refresh rate is so that you can always hit those numbers. Screw that. This was one thing that changed the game for me because I realized that your system may not need to render all those frames, but rendering all those frames actually keeps that latency where it needs to be. So Linus Tech Tips has a great video on this where frames versus monitors, and they had Shroud come in, and every single time, the more frames there were, the better you did. Frames win games. That like every time, even if your monitor doesn't properly see it, it will make a difference in your gameplay. I don't know how to explain it, but I promise setting this to unlimited is way better. Obviously, PC only. Reduce menu render resolution. Set that to maximal. Pause game rendering off. Reduce quality when inactive off. I mean, I guess that's up to you. If you're not there, then you can turn it on. Focus mode. Set that to 0. If you ever find that you are on a computer with 2 monitors, if you set this anything above 0, then the other monitor will darken. It just lowers how bright that screen is. Don't recommend it. Next up, HDR, entirely up to you. I don't recommend it. I don't even like HDR in any capacity. I think it looks kind of goofy, at least in Call of Duty games. In other games, incredible. But Call of Duty specifically, not a big fan. Graphic preset, custom, of course. We're gonna be doing 100% render resolution. Do not go above, do not go below. It messes with the way the game works. It messes with the way that the game looks. It messes with what you're gonna see. It can make it super blurry, to be quite honest. So make sure your render resolution is set to 100. Dynamic resolution, for the love of God, keep that off. But I will say, if you are on PlayStation or you are on Xbox, you will have this on by default. You can't get rid of it. It exists in the capacity that it does because of the way that these systems work. If you're on a PS5 Pro, it doesn't have a big impact. But if you're on a regular PS5 or a regular Xbox Series X or something like that, this is going to have a bigger impact on your system. Like the game will have a bigger impact, which means it's going to dynamically change it to where sometimes things look a little bit worse. That's why the distance on computer is going to look a little bit better than the distance on PlayStation or on Xbox. It's dynamic resolution. That's the problem. That's why we need to move past PS4 and stuff like that. But that's a whole other conversation. Next, if you have it, make sure you have fidelity cast. This is the #1 thing to make your game look beautiful. In fact, I'll give you an exact example of it. We are going to go in and I'm going to turn this off. We're going to apply it. And what I'm going to do, sorry, my screen goes black here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look down the way here. I'm going to zoom in and watch this. And now it's on, and already you can tell that this is way sharper. So if you're struggling and everything looks a little blurry, it's probably because you don't have that on. It has minimal effect on your frames, and I mean like literally 1 to 2 frames for fidelity cast. So I highly recommend you put it on because everything's going to be sharper. It's going to be easier to see things. Do not use frame generation in any capacity. Fake frames are fake people. Don't use it. It's not good for you. VRAM scale target, depending upon your system, what you have running in the background, it may be worth it to pump that all the way up. I have a 4090, I have a 9800 X3D, like max computer. I keep mine at 90. If you have kind of a worse graphics card or a worse system, you may want to lower that down to like 80 or even 70 so that you're not passing you know, the boundary for which it will slow down your entire computer to have this game running. So that's what I'd say. Variable rate shading, I keep this on. You really don't notice it, and it adds a little bit to your frame, so it's going to make you feel a little bit better. But it really, like, the visual cost of having variable rate shading on is so minimal because it takes the things that you're really not looking at. So if I'm trying to get a super crisp video, I'll cut it off, but it's only because people are going to be looking at every edge. But if I'm just doing a gameplay video, I'll keep it on because for me, I'm not going to notice it while I'm playing because it's taking out the parts of the screen that really don't matter all that much, and it's just lowering it just enough to where it's getting you those frames. So next up, texture resolution, set it to low. Normal is fine, but I found that for some reason, a lot of 40 series GPUs, when you set it to higher than low, you'll get a lot of dev errors. So I keep mine set to low. Texture filter, whatever that is, 0, nothing, nada. Depth of field. This is stupid. This is dumb. This is going to make you miss targets. I know. It goes to a black screen every time I change one of these settings, but you can see how it kind of blurs certain things out. And if there's an enemy pretty close to you, you see how on the bottom right corner of the screen there, it's kind of blurring out the wood. If there's an enemy there, it'll blur them out. So no, keep that off. You want to make everything as sharp as physically possible. That is your goal. Do not use post-processing things like NVIDIA softwares to add sharpening because it doesn't work the same way that the in-game sharpening does. So I'm going to go in and we're going to turn off depth of field. Next up, detail quality. I set that to low. Particle resolution, very low because they really don't matter. Bullet impacts, you want to make sure that you do have these on. They do have an effect on your CPU, but it's very minimal. You will not notice the difference. What it's going to allow you to do is know that a bullet is hitting beside you. I think that's pretty important in certain times. It's super minimal, but it is what it is. Persistent effects, turn that off. Shader quality, set that to low. You don't need this. If you look, basically it lets you see like certain reflections. It's stupid. Does a lot to your GPU, lowers your frames a lot. I keep my on-demand texture streaming set to optimized, and I do have a download limit of 1 gigabyte daily. Allowed texture cache size is 32. If you want to change that, it's up to you. Local streaming quality. I have a great computer. I have great internet. I keep it to normal. I would recommend you set it to low. I keep it at normal only because I make content. If I was not making content, I wanted to maximize frames, I would keep it at low. Shader quality. Again, another one, keep it at very low. Screen space shadows, don't need it. Set it to off. Occlusion, off. Screen space reflections, off. Static reflection quality, low. You do not need to see things in reflections that are not moving. If the reflection showed a character moving, then yes, that would be good. But if it doesn't, you do not need it. Tessellation, that just makes the game look a little bit better. You don't necessarily need it set to all. I like it for my videos, but for you, set it to near. Volumetric quality, set it to low. That is basically going to make your game look a little bit hazy. It's going to give you a little bit more of a shimmer on certain things where the sun's hitting. So having that on may actually cause a little bit of glare for you. I would recommend setting that to low. Deferred physics quality, set that to low. Weather grid volume quality, meaning like whether or not you can see a shimmer whenever your character gets wet, set that to off. Water quality, first of all, wave wetness works the exact same way as weather grid volumes quality, as it shows a little bit of shimmer, but it's only on the like beach where water is hitting. You don't need it. Set it to wave or to water caustics because that lets you see a little bit better. Lets you see a little bit better underwater. So we're going to go ahead and apply those settings and we're going to hop back in. So we have our view. Now this right here, for the love of God, if I click L3, no. All right, we're not going to do that. This setup, everybody has it wrong. All right. By default, I think it's set to either 90 or 80. So let's say we go to 80. Let's say we go to independent, default 90. That's fine. Set that to default. Motion blur, default. This is where you start. This right here. And people say, dang, those streamers, they're cheating. They're using a Chrome. The other day, my brother literally called me and he was like, dude, I figured it out. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, I figured out how all these streamer guys can see while they're shooting and their guns never have recoil. I was like, did you change your FOV? He goes, yeah. And I was like, oh no. Because like everybody's known about this for a long time in the creation community, right? People that make content, they figured this out a long time ago that it helps. So off rip, when I go to shoot at something, you see how bouncy it is and how everything's like, look at how hard it is to see what's going on. If I'm turning, I can't see anything, you know? This is gonna make me throw up. Sure, I can be good at aiming because I'm good at aiming, but it doesn't mean my gun doesn't look super bouncy, right? Like it is, oh my God. But if I go into my settings and follow exactly what I do, first of all, first person camera movement, set that to least 50 and least 50. Immediately going in, it helps quite a bit. Obviously, the most important thing is turning off world motion blur and weapon motion blur. Whoa. All of a sudden you can see everything while you're turning. You know what I'm saying? You can see everything. So a lot of people, what they like to do is they will, first of all, look at independent. Oh, you can't even see it because of the, set this to affected. Oh, wow. What the? Interesting. So I will always set my field of view to 120. And the reason why is because it makes it look like you have no recoil. It makes it super easy to see the target that you're trying to shoot, which makes it easier to stay on target, which makes it easier for you to get eliminations. So if you think someone is cheating because they don't have any recoil, they do have recoil. It's just not accentuated because they have bad settings. They have good settings, which makes it look like they don't have recoil. That's all it comes down to. That's literally all it comes down to. So diving into your settings, what I would recommend is as follows. You're going to want to go in, make sure your FOV is set to 120, ADS field of view set to affected, weapon field of view set to wide, third person, doesn't really matter because you're never going to have that, vehicle field of view set to wide, world motion blur set to off, weapon motion blur set to off. Those two are super important. First person camera movement, least 50, third person, least 50, third person ADS, doesn't matter. Inverted flashbang. Let me kind of explain this to you because it's a little complicated, but if you go to get flashbanged in a game, someone throws a flashbang at you and your screen comes in bright white. While it's going back to normal, you can see movement on your screen very easily because it's coming from brightness down to regular. If you get flashbanged and it goes black, that means zero visibility, none. You would always rather get brightness than darkness because you will see movement in brightness, but you will not see movement in darkness. So if you set that to inverted flashbang on, you will often see people later whenever you get flashbang. So I always keep it set to off. Parachute camera perspective, first person. And now we get to have a little bit of fun. Moving into audio. I figured out so much stuff today that's going to make such a big difference for y'all, and I'm so freaking excited about it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through step by step how I recommend to set things up. Going into audio. I do have my audio slightly tuned outside of Call of Duty. Let me explain to you why I do that. I use studio grade headphones. I also have very sensitive ears. I'm 90% sure I have tinnitus. And sometimes the audio in Call of Duty is a little bit tinny, and I cannot handle that. So what I've done is I have an audio tune set up to change that. However, you can tune it in the game. Mine is a little bit more fine-tuned to my headphones. But if you have something like Astros or Turtle Beaches or, you know, something like a regular gamer headphone, I've set up such a good tune for y'all, and you're gonna love it. It's super easy. You can do it all in game. So let's hop in. First off, let's go to the volumes. We have gameplay music volume set to 0, dialogue volume set to 40. That's going to let you know if somebody says flashbang out or an enemy hears you coming by and they go enemy nearby. You're going to hear them say that, which gives away their position, which is why it's so fun to have that set to 40 because you'll hear that and you're like, oh, there's a guy there. Effects volume, you do want to set that to 100. Keep your effects and your master always at 100 or you degrade your audio, meaning you will miss things in the game. That is super important. Cinematic music volume, for the love of God, cut that to 0 alongside the gameplay because you don't want to hear at the end of the game music popping in your head when you need to hear literally every single detail to get a win. I don't understand it. Next up, make sure you obviously have your stuff set up to the correct output. If you have the option, which I know a lot of PlayStation users, pretty much every PlayStation 5 and every Xbox Series X user has the option to use something like Dolby. Right? Dolby Atmos is usually on the system. So you can actually get 7.1 surround sound and your audio is going to sound way better. So if you have the option to do that, go cut it on. Go get that Dolby and get that 7.1 surround for your game. That's going to let you hear a little bit more clear around you. Keep advanced headphone mode off. Home theater or sucker punch. These are basically the same thing. I want to be very clear. Basically the same thing. But the way that home theater works is it's going to be a little quieter because it feels like the audio isn't overlapping. If you feel like you're someone that you hop in and when you're trying to play the game, you get overstimulated by all the sounds, it's likely your audio mix. If you use Sucker Punch, you will get overstimulated. This is what I figured out that changed such a lot of things for me whenever I was playing, is that I would use Sucker Punch and I'm like, dude, I cannot differentiate. I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what is happening in my head? I changed it to home theater and all of a sudden I was like, oh, those are footsteps. Whoa. And you'll slowly start to hear things a little bit better with home theater, but you will have to turn your volume up just a little bit. So I would recommend home theater. But if you want to hear footsteps louder and you don't get overstimulated or you have something like Astros or Turtle Beaches or something like that, Sucker Punch may actually be worth it. With what I'm about to give you for the audio tuning, for the love of God, do not use anything other than those two options. It will not work. I tested it for 4 hours I tested it. Follow what I do right here, okay? So this is going to get a little annoying. I apologize, but audio mix, like I said, home theater, mono audio, if this is on, you've been losing games for no reason. Keep that set to off. Mute, completely up to you. Mute licensed music, completely up to you. Asymmetrical hearing, turn that to off. Some people like it. I do not. But what we're going to do is make sure reduced tinnitus sound is on so that you're not hearing in your ear. And go to configure frequency intensity settings. You're going to copy exactly what I do here verbatim, okay? Go in. This is super annoying. I'm going to unplug my controller so that this is easier actually. And I'm going to run through these. We're going to do 50. We're going to do 0, negative 35, negative 35, 20, or negative 20, I mean. Negative 20. I know. 50, 10, and 10. And what you're going to do is you're going to go in and you're going to copy this exact setup into the right side as well so that it's symmetrical on each side. And that is going to help you hear footsteps so much better. I swear, especially if you have like studio grade headphones, like I recommend, like if you go into expel.gg/gear, way better. Makes a big difference. It will sound so much better. And if you can have that 7.1 surround sound, it's also going to be way better. But again, I tune my stuff for my headphones. I don't change anything to where I can't hear specific sounds. That's not how it works. I promise you, it is insane. I don't mess with any game files. I don't do anything like that. I just make it to where my ears aren't super all the time. I cannot deal with it. That's how I am. Is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and set these back to 0. Give me just a second. Moving into the voice chat, I like to keep my voice chat volume set to 100, but it's entirely up to you. Whatever audio sounds you have going in your headphones, is if you hate listening to your teammates at super high, cool, change it. I actually have all my stuff routed through a Go XLR, so all my audio is separated, so I can individually change them with a slider on my Go XLR. So I don't have to worry about that. I just keep it at 100 for the sake of the videos. Voice chat, obviously set to on. Proximity chat, set that to on. If you play a lot of solos, keep your mic open at all times. It is free echolocation, basically. That's the only way I can put it, because it's basically free awareness, because when you run around, your mic will only pop up whenever an enemy with proximity chat is nearby you. So if they have proximity chat on, they're within 50 meters, they have proximity chat turned on, they have like in-game voice comms on, you will see your mic pop up on the right side of your screen. I've talked about this a million times in my videos. It is hilariously broken. Keep proximity chat on all the time and go catch your enemies for free. Body shield chat up to you. Last words chat up to you. Game chat voice all lobby up to you. Like you see right here, it's a completely different voice chat output device. Just set that to whatever your thing is. Your microphone volume level should be like 20 in 90% of cases. All right. So when I hop in here, you can see I'm not talking. Now I'm talking. Now I'm talking. Right. It defaults to 100. Check. It echoed back. It was so loud it echoed back. Stop it. Stop. You are blowing out your mic every time. Oh my God. Go in and set that to like 20. I have a super crisp, perfectly set up microphone. Obviously, mine is going to work a little bit different. Going into testing. Check. Sounds way better. I keep mine at 34 because that's the perfect volume for my mic going into the game. Check. Sounds exactly like it does whenever I'm talking to you. Obviously, voice over IP is a little bit different, but neither here nor there. Anyway, like I said, microphone mode, set that to open mic so that you can just go catch people for free in solos. Mute yourself when connecting, set it to off. Microphone input device is obviously your microphone. Now, moving into interface, we got some fun stuff in here as well, specifically under gameplay HUD, or actually under readability. So, taking a look at taking a look at global, menu prompts, set it to automatic, gameplay tips. I like to keep it on, honestly. Skip introduction movie if you get knocked out of a match. Say you dev air. You want to be able to get back into that match as fast as physically possible. You need to skip the introduction movie so that it doesn't boot up and go, Call of Duty. So skip the introduction movie so you can get back in there and rejoin that match. Skip kill cam, keep that set to off so that you can catch cheaters. Tooltips, set it to on. Telemetry, I keep mine off. If you're going to do anything, I would do the essential. Oh, maybe not. I would do custom. Cut on your FPS counter if you're on PC. Server latency and packet loss are pretty important whenever you're trying to figure stuff out as to whether or not you're lagging, but I don't use telemetry because I like my videos to look good. Entirely up to you. Telemetry size, actually set that to larger sometimes if you're struggling to read it, right? Network in-game icons on, hardware in-game icons on. Readability, fun fact, I actually love to set my menu size to largest. I don't know why I didn't have that on for this video. I'm sorry if you struggled to see it, but you've made it this far. We're going to set it to largest. It does make things look a little weird at times, though, so I'm going to set it to larger. Text chat size, set it to default. You don't want people dropping slurs on the side of your screen for free. Color customization. This stuff is fun. If you feel like your game looks like trash, it is because you have not set up your color customization. Welcome to my settings video. I like to go in. We keep everything the same. I do not change your crosshair. We'll get to that in a second, but keep everything the same. Go to color filter, set it to filter 2. Color filter target, set it to both. World color intensity, keep it at 75, or if it's not saturated enough, set it to 100. Your game will look 10 times better. You're going to see people way easier, and you're going to get on target more just because you can see them way better. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. This makes a huge difference in the game. If you want to set it to 100, it's just a boost in saturation. I think it looks so much better that way. Next up, gameplay HUD. HUD bounds, obviously keep that at default. Minimap shape, if you have it set to round, you are missing 40% of your minimap. You will miss 40% more stuff than somebody that has their set to square. Set it to square. So we set that to square. Minimap rotation, set it to on. It matches where you're looking on your screen so that your character stays forward and then your minimap moves. Radar, if you turn this on, you will not see your minimap. Keep it off. Compass type, set it to horizontal. You want it at the top of your screen. And the reason why is because it makes it easiest to make call outs to where enemies are if you're playing in any mode with teammates. Map assist, auto center, I feel like just works the best. Tax sprint stamina bar, I like to display that near my health. If I do not have sprinter on, that means that I know whenever I'm going to run out of tactical sprint. So if I'm running around with an SMG inside of a building trying to fight somebody, and all of a sudden I know I'm going to run out of tactical sprint, I need to swap to a knife and rotate around. But I can also see when I'm going to run out of tactical sprint so I can slow down and start fighting again. So it's just all about having more information than your enemy. Vehicle HUD prompts, completely up to you. In-game text chat, I keep it off for my videos, but obviously if you need to have it on, have it on. Player names, you do not need to see their clan tag. It'll take up more of your screen, so set that to abbreviated. Buy station closes when damaged. Keep that off. If you get shot while you're trying to buy back a teammate, it'll knock you out of it. You want to buy back your teammate, but if you get shot, it'll be annoying. Weapon inspect attachment info. This lets you know if you find a weapon on the ground that you like. If you double tap the inspect button, which I believe is, yeah, left on the D-pad here. So if you double tap left on the D-pad here, it'll pop up on the bottom right with the information about the weapon, which is super freaking cool. And then we have the custom ping duration. I have that set to off. I don't think it needs to be changed. Kill feed duration, completely up to you. It might be worth it to even set it to like medium or long if you're trying to see whether or not certain players are disconnecting from the match. Say you die to a cheater and you want to know if they get ricocheted. If you die to that cheater and you go into the gulag, it often won't pop up the kill feed on the left-hand side while you're in the gulag. So if you set that to long or extended or something like that, you'll be able to see that more often. But just a little idea. Next up, Crosshair. This one's actually pretty important. So I'm going to hop in and we're going to set this to static. So oh, sorry, hold on. This is being super hateful. I got to go to controller and set controller to controller. Okay. So if you go in here, you can see my crosshair at the center of my screen is not really moving, right? It's staying dead center. But if I jump, oh, that's weird. You can see that my gun actually bounces from the center of the screen. What that means is that the crosshair is incorrect. So I'm jumping, my crosshair is staying the same, but my gun actually bounces a little bit. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that that crosshair is set to on, which is going to show the bounce in the center of the screen for what's actually happening. So it's not staying dead center. It is actually bouncing with where you're going to be shooting, which is huge. It's actually very, very helpful. Next up, you want to make sure that your dot scale is set to default. If you go to look at somebody and center on them and you have that set to largest, unless you physically cannot see the dot on your screen, you are probably going to cover their head. You are not going to see exactly where their head is. And when they move, you are going to miss that person. I don't know why people do this. Do not set it to larger or largest unless you physically cannot see the dot in general. Set it to default. It's going to keep it small, but it's still going to be on your screen. Crosshair spread. If you set that to off, whenever you jump right here, I'll show you again. Whenever you jump, it's not spreading. What that spread actually shows you is how your bullets will actually spread out. The more that that crosshair is spreading, the more your bullets are going to spray in random directions. So you need to have that information at your fingertips. So what I like to do is make sure that when I go into crosshair, we have crosshair spread on. Also, if you're going to change your crosshair color, change it to something like pink. Don't change it to red. The crosshair will often change colors whenever you shoot someone. If you crack an enemy, it may turn blue. If you shoot somebody and they die, they may turn red. But if your crosshair is always red, you may think that person died. Don't set it to red. I don't know. Don't know why people do this. Also, if you set it to green, your enemies are often the green color. That means you will aim at somebody, and if you play multiplayer, you'll think that the person you aimed at is your teammate. Pink, something that isn't being used, is basically what you want to set it to if you really don't want it to be white. But white is what I like to keep it because it keeps you regular. Hit marker visuals, of course you need that on so that you know whenever you hit an enemy. Damage-based hit markers like popping up plates and stuff like that, super important, set it to on. Elimination feed, set it to 100. Minimap opacity, set it to 100. I don't know what all this is. Oh, wow, that's actually really cool. Oh, shit, that's cool as hell. I didn't know this existed, bro. Well, I wouldn't put it all at the center. All right is actually super nice. So you can actually whoa! I can move all of this? Bro, it actually may be worth it to set everything to the right. I don't know if I'm wild. Whoa, I may actually have to give that a shot. Oh yeah, hey, try that at right. Let me know how you feel about it. Just, you know, it keeps things off the center of your screen. That's so cool. And the display duration of it. Whoa, that is so cool. I did not know that existed. I wonder when they added that. Invert feed order, keep that at off. The last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into my account settings. Make sure your profanity filter's on. Just, you know, because we're adults here. Dismemberment and gore effects, turn it off if you don't want to see like all these like glowy things on players. I don't know why it works, but it does a lot of the time. So turn it off if you hate having like a big glow on characters. But if you feel like it gives away the like position of enemy characters, then keep it on. So up to you. I have mine on for now. It is what it is. And I think that is basically it. You can go into your notification alerts and you can get rid of like player completion. That'll get rid of quite a few things that pop up on your screen, but it does not get rid of your battle pass and it does not get rid of your rank ups. So those are always going to be there. Welcome to Gambling Central, which is the reason that those things pop up is because it has the same effect as winning a slot machine. Yay. But I think that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. If you learned something in this video, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure to check out expel.gg. Grab yourself a controller. I promise you, best on the market, dude. I'm telling you, if you love PS5 controllers, this thing makes a massive difference. Either way, we do have also Xbox versions, but the Pro Plus is currently only in PlayStation 5. Thanks so much. I love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.